We are teaching cross-country skills backwards. I came to gliding in 2016 with no prior aviation background, but I fell in love at first glide. Gliding is difficult and unnatural and something to continually improve upon, and I am a sucker for an open-ended challenge. Soon after getting my certificate, I started reading the typical books and learning from my mentors about centering thermals, McCready theory, and energy lines, and so on. And of course, I was slow. I took every opportunity I could to keep learning. I read more books and articles. I flew with many top-notch pilots. Everything I saw made sense. But still, when I returned to my own cockpit, I was slow. Do I need to fly faster between thermals? Should I add water? Do I need to work harder to stay on the energy lines? I need to be higher on those OLC pages. At the same time, I knew gliding also scared me. At first, I was petrified of landing elsewhere than the home airport. What will the other pilots think? Would anybody even come to retrieve this dummy? I was also scared of new places. My first few trips to Truckee felt exciting on the drive over, but excitement always turned to anxiety as launch time arrived. I once found myself on the ground at 2 p.m. giving an excuse for not flying a glider as a regular asked, "How else do you want the clouds to look?" I felt awful, and I drove away defeated. Maybe what scared me most was the terrain. California's hills are rugged and mighty. Staring them down in sync is very uncomfortable. No matter how much margin my glide computer said I had, I found it incredibly difficult to reconcile with what my eyes were telling me. Eventually, I was trying hard enough to land out. A lot. What I noticed, though, was that nobody disparaged me. On the contrary, I'd get calls and emails that congratulated and encouraged me to keep trying. As an experiment, I started posting all my landouts to OLC because I noticed that others tend not to. Guess what? Nobody said a word. It also helped me to build the confidence that I could at least land somewhere new. While this didn't help much with speed, it did help with distance. I started wondering around this time how much a factor the mental game was to my speed. I began flying from other locations since I knew that I just needed more flying time, and more possible locations equals more chances to gain experience. I slowly ventured farther from each of them and became familiar with more territory. My landouts also continued. I realized I actually sort of like it. There's always interesting people, and getting home is usually the more memorable part than the flight itself. This was an interesting revelation because it meant I found a way to enjoy gliding without feeling the need to compare myself to anyone. I didn't need to look at OLC. I just enjoyed getting out of my normal routine with a possibility of a real adventure and being actually inconvenienced. A rare opportunity in the modern developed world. I had also just read G. Dale's Volume 3 after long ago reading Volume 1. It is subtitled High Performance Flying. I did not at all get out of it what I expected. In the last half, Dale discusses the mental aspects of soaring and process-oriented goal setting. These are things like making sure your car and trailer are ready to go and to land out, and finding ways to clear your schedule and so on, as opposed to the outcome goals like achieving a 500-kilometer flight. I had been refocusing in this way for some time, but I finally had a name for it. Process goals are so helpful because you have no direct control over outcomes, but you can control what leads to it. It's very much like finding a good thermal in that you can give yourself good odds, but you can't really predict when the good thermal arrives. It helps tremendously with confidence because you know that if you keep setting yourself up, the outcome will arrive in its own time. Recently, I entered a contest for the first time, Avenal Sports Class. There were so many great pilots that I knew the odds of winning to be zero. It was strangely liberating. My only goals were to experience a contest and complete the tasks, no matter how slow. On the final glides, the game is of course to use up all the remaining energy, and watching my glider live up to the computer's calculations on such long, fast glides was critical. My fear of terrain and lack of trust in the computed performance were suddenly decoupled from each other. I was at this time analyzing lots of traces. I noticed that I did very short glides and didn't lose much altitude compared to others. Of course, this is bad because the longer you can glide, the more chance you have of finding a strong thermal. Why was I doing this though? It clicked. My reservations were keeping me in a feedback loop. I would feel the need to stay high, to keep the terrain below me, or keep a familiar placing glide, or because I didn't really believe the glide computer. Then, since most thermals are weak, I would take small, slow climbs. I would see a poor average climb rate and conclude that the conditions were not great, or that I was doing poorly, and get more conservative. I was slow because I was scared, and scared because I was slow. I did actually want a 500-kilometer flight, and it arrived in August 2022 in Uniform Victor, which is a Yantar Standard 2. It was also my fastest flight, despite needing to dig myself out on the return. I did not fly faster between thermals. I paid little attention to McCready. I did not load the glider down with water. I probably didn't thermal at the right bank angles either. I was only confident that my glider could reach the next landable and that I could land there safely and have fun getting home. The results were longer glides, being willing to lose more altitude, and finding stronger thermals. At no point did I feel unsafe. It was an easygoing and freeing experience. I think we may be teaching new cross-country pilots backwards. I wish many years ago I had looked in the back of the Soaring Engine Volume 3. I also wish anyone at all had told me why to fly instead of repeating how to fly. I think we can also do much better to check in on each other's feelings. We have no emotional McCready theory ready to lecture onto other people, yet every new pilot I meet eventually hints or states outright their reservations about landing out or whatever. I'm also getting pretty good at noticing the excuses people give at the airport, because I did it too. Even, maybe especially seasoned airline pilots tell me frequently what is making them nervous. Feelings are the pink elephant in a room. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'll stop here. We also need to do a better job teaching people how to set process goals. Much of the gliding game is won or lost before we even leave the house in the morning. Wanting to beat so-and-so or get so many kilometers a day or be place X on the OLC region is not helpful. Those come with experience and in their own time. How do you get that experience? Well, get good at forecasting. It's not black magic. Turn your car into a mobile motel. Find a way to keep your glider trailer close by so you can easily take it to the best weather. Join multiple clubs. Do whatever it takes to make it easy for yourself to get out there and glide. Have your ducks in a row at every opportunity. We definitely need some extra emotional intelligence. I'm not great at it, but I try. And I feel lucky that many of my glider friends are. Different people experience a huge variety of feelings, even in identical circumstances. They are all valid because they happen to us. It only matters what we do next. If you want to see somebody's face light up, tell them to go far today because you'll pick them up if they land. Tell them it's natural to be afraid of things that they've never done and seen, and they are doing a great job exploring it all. When they land out, tell them about all the times you did too. This is what makes a fast pilot. Oh, and then tell them about McCready theory.